Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about that. Welcome to SPI's webinar, How to Avoid Occupational Vision Loss with our partner, Honeywell. For those who may not know SPI, SPI's mission is to be the single most valuable partner for companies that value health and safety in their work environment. And how we do this is part of our webinars. We do present you content. We try to educate you in terms of different risks in occupational health and safety. And we're glad that you joined today on our third webinar this year. My name is Amélie Leduc, and I'm a marketing advisor here at SPI. I'm glad to be joined by Roger Farmer. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Emily.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Good. Roger is from Honeywell. You're actually the National Product Sales Manager. Uh, Roger, you have about 20 years of experience in health and safety. You've been an active and a voting member on numerous standard writing committees. Uh, you've been with Honeywell for how many years?
Well, Honeywell since the 1997. So yeah, it's been a few years yet. I'm still very young though, Emily.
Yes, you are. I can acknowledge. Yeah, and I can also acknowledge that you're a resource in matters relating to safety for PPEs, both in Canada but also in the US.
Correct.
So, what exactly is your role at Honeywell?
Well, my current role is a national product sales manager, you mentioned. So my primary responsibilities is to educate customers both in US and Canada as regards to eye, face, and head protection, as well as emergency eye watch, which we'll be talking about today. So I'm very excited about talking to your customers, the people that listen to your SPI webinars about emergency eye watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's been a while since we've addressed this topic. So I think that what eh, made people want to hear about it because I mean, we're going to see in the next couple of slides some shocking, interesting statistics, but it's a topic of interest. Definitely. So before we go on with the heart of the matter, we have a question for you today. We want to know, according to you, how many ocular injuries, whether permanent or temporary, do you think occur in Canada every day? Is it A, 100, B, 300, C, 500, or D, 700? We'll give you a few seconds to vote.
So when you talk about ocular injuries, you're talking about eye injuries, of course. So anybody's confused with that term,
Yes.
eye injuries, of course, right?
Yes,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'm interested to see what everybody's going to say,
I mean,
honestly.
people know by now that I'm French, but I did live out west for several years. But that's one of that's the Frenchie in me
Well,
that
that's
came
good.
out.
That's good. I'm interested to see what everybody's going to say.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I think we have some responses right now. Okay, good. So, are you ready, Roger?
I'm ready.
Okay. 22% of our audience think there's 100 injuries per day. 22% thinks there's 300. 44% thinks there 500, and 11% think there's 700.
Wow, 11% are right. Good.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's good or not, actually.
Well, yeah, I hear what you say.
So, according to the National Institute for the Blind, there's more than 700 Canadian workers per day that suffer eye injuries at work, resulting in temporary or permanent vision loss, which is it's a horrible statistic, but it's no different than in the U.S. In the U.S., 700,000 persons at work are injured every year.
Oh my God.
So we're not statistically any different. What we need to change is that we need to figure out how we prevent these injuries. And 90% of all eye injuries, whether it be emergency eye wash needs or projectiles in the eyes, and 90% of all eye injuries are preventable. And that's a good statistic to talk about. With the right things and the right things in place, we can actually avoid a lot of these statistics.
Yeah, definitely. That's the point. And I think that the following presentation will serve our audience as a guide to help them choose the right equipment and the rinsing solution that will meet their needs for their particular workplace situation, basically. Just before we really get into the heart of the matter, I just wanted to tell you people that this presentation is going to last for about 30 to 45 minutes. If you do have questions, by all means, ask right on the spot. You do have a Q&A box on your screen that you may use. If we're unable to answer to your question right away, we will do so at the end, or we will contact you individually. We will not be giving the PowerPoint presentation, so for those who wish to take notes, by all means, grab your pen right now and keep on writing. And you'll see at the end of this presentation, we do have a survey for you. So please bear with us at the end. Take the time to answer it. That's how we know how we did and how we can improve, and that we can tackle subject that really matters to you. So having said that, we will go on with another interactive question. We want to know what type of accidents or eye injuries you face in your work environment. Is it a liquid exposure, B, solid exposure, C, gas and radiation exposure, or D, other? We'll give you a few seconds to answer. What do you think will be the result?
Well, I think it'll be very close to our French customers spoke to us just earlier. I think it'll be representative. I don't think it'll be very different from what we heard before.
Yeah, and mostly they were liquid and solid, but we'll see. Different province, different industry, sometimes different
Yeah,
realities.
absolutely.
So from living out west, I can definitely understand the difference sometimes. Okay, so we do have 22% of people are facing liquid exposure injuries, 67% solid exposure, and nobody from gas or radiation, and 11% other. It'd be interesting to see what are the other injuries that you folks are facing. If you want to give us some heads up, type
Yeah,
it in the Q&A. I
I
would
would
love to.
appreciate knowing what the other means, the
Yeah.
11% other means. So by all means, if anybody's out there to send us the other examples, I'd like to know it. But it's very close. So we talk about eye injuries in the workplace. 20% of all eye injuries in the workplace are liquid exposures, and 70% are solid or projectiles that that hit the eyes, that are that cause the majority of all the accidents. There's a 10% of all other injuries that are other. They could be gases or radiation exposure or something else. And that's something else. Quite frankly, it'd be very interesting, like you said, our listeners today,
Yeah.
what that is. That'd be very good to hear from them. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Please use your Q&A box and let us know. All right. Thanks for playing the game, if I may say. We do now. Well, obviously, we're going to talk about law, regulation, and standard, but definitely one thing to remember is that you must have the appropriate emergency equipment in your workplace, but also you need to know how to use it and how the law requires you to use it.
Right.
So that's what we're going to talk about. And maybe, Roger, you can tell us what is the difference between a law, a regulation, a standard?
Yeah, they're very different. A lot of these questions come up in every industry that I've ever worked with within the safety industry. What is the difference between a law, regulation, and a standard? Well, a law is a general obligation. In Canada, the law requires that the employer must take every reasonable precaution to protect the worker. And that hasn't changed. If you go somewhere else in any industrial nation, that's typically the law of that country, is that you have to protect your workers with every reasonable way you can. A regulation is very different. It's a specific obligation. So it's a set of rules that we're obligated to follow. Rules that the government establishes by law are made real and enforceable by the power of the government it gives itself. Now, people say, well, is a standard a law? Well, a standard's not a law. A standard is a guide. It's useful tools to meet the requirements of the regulations and the laws that you have to meet. So they're not written by the government. They're usually written by organizations such as CSA, ANSI, NFPA, and there are several others. It's often facilitated by a balanced consensus committee made of industry users, government agencies, manufacturers, and some subject matter experts. But it is the best document, basically, to help you understand what you need to do in your workplace to keep that workplace safe to a specific subject.
Yeah. And I mean, we live in a big country with several provinces, Roger, as you know. Sometimes we can get lost in different provincial standards. Can you maybe talk to us about it?
Yeah, so here in the Canada, we often have what we call our provincial authorities, right? So the provincial authorities are very much similar in every way. And we took an example here from British Columbia. That could have been British Columbia. It could have been Alberta. Basically, it's the same. Manitoba's the same.
Ontario.
Quebec, Ontario, New Brunswick. They're very similar. They'll be very similar to the words you'll see here, which is basically emergency eye wash equipment must be available at any workplace where there's a risk of eye injury from exposure to hazardous, irritating, or corrosive substances. The example here being British Columbia. We do not have a CSA standard here in Canada, like other standards we have for hard hats, for head protection, or for eye protection. For emergency eye wash, we follow which we call almost a universal standard worldwide. and that standard is ANSI Z358.1, and its current version is 2014. Probably expecting that version to be updated in 2020. That version usually changes every 5 or 6 years. Prior to 2014, it was in 2009.
Okay.
So probably one is expected, but generally, it always builds on the previous standard. It always tries to improve the previous standard. So
Yeah.
we're talking about Z358.1 everywhere in Canada. That should be used, or by that standard or the regulation or the competent authority may actually require it by law.
Okay. And can you actually talk about a little bit about the standard, maybe the important takeaways?
Absolutely. So the real golden rule, the speed of action is the golden rule. Primary emergency eye wash devices must be accessible in less than 10 seconds. I get the question, what does 10 seconds mean? Does that mean running? Is it jogging? It's a 10-second walk without any obstructions. If you read into the standard, they'll talk about 17 meters as a walk without any obstruction. So that's the golden rule. You have to be within 10 seconds to get the emergency eye wash that you need. The other takeaways are very important here. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but the ones that are important. It must be enabled in less than 1 second. So that emergency eye wash station must be deployed within 1 second.
Okay,
Continuous rinsing for 50 minutes at a rate of 1.5 liters per minute is required. And the user must be able to open the eyelids with their hands, both hands, while keeping their eyes in the liquid for the duration of the mandatory 50-minute rinsing. And it must distribute the liquid to both eyes simultaneously. And I messed that word up in French earlier, but simultaneously is the English word.
Oh, yes, but that's cute.
All right.
All right. Okay, so risk analysis. What do we need to know about that?
Well, there's obvious high risks, right? So if you and where you work in your workplace, there's painting and solving, painting operations and solvents, battery charging stations, tool part washers. If you're working in a laboratory or you're near chemical, hazardous chemicals and storage, you obviously need probably a 50-minute eye wash station. And I say probably. So your best material is the MSDS sheet. That document provides information on controlled product, both in terms of toxic effects and the protective measures you need to prevent overexposure to chemical hazards and to follow the procedures for an emergency. So even though we say the standard is 15 minutes, you might find some substances there that require 20 minutes. And this would not be that wouldn't be suitable for you. You really have to understand what you have in your workplace before you try to address it. Typically, the standard will give you 98% of what you need to know.
Yeah.
There always is the real, very specific environments you have to be aware of.
And that will be given to you by the MSDS sheet.
Right.
MSDS, yeah.
Exactly.
Good. There are 3 categories of emergency eye wash device. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I mean, connected to plumbing is very, very typical in a large facility. Every one of these categories has advantages and disadvantages. I'll talk about those a little bit later. But connected to plumbing is definitely really something really good still, very useful in the workplace. Portable primary eye wash stations are basically what it sounds like. They're portable. You can move them. There's a facility, when your facilities are too far away, your eye wash station's too far away from the hazard. Portable primary eye wash stations are great for that. And there's secondary personal eye wash devices, which we'll talk about a little bit, and how they're misused, mostly about how they're misused, but there are also very, very good uses for those devices as well.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the first one, the connected to plumbing.
Well, connected to plumbing, it requires weekly activation. A lot of people don't know that. I've been in a facility before where you ask somebody to run the plumbing station, and lo and behold, everybody's shocked and surprised, rust and dirt coming out of the pipes. So weekly activation is a requirement of the standard, and it really needs to be done. So if you're not doing that today, if you're using plumbed and you feel you continue to use plumbed, at least have the weekly activation as part of your work methods. Yep. The objective to verify the proper operation and eliminate any buildup caused by stagnant water. That's why you do the weekly activation. Without weekly activation, you got bacteria and mold that can accumulate in the plumbing. And that's really bad for the eyes, especially during, there's an event or an accident, right?
Yeah.
Tap water, even though it's clean enough for human consumption, can be dangerous for eye health. So we're talking again, when you're having an accident, you have, let's say, acid in your eyes. Your eyes are very, very susceptible at that point. The eyes are the softest part of your body, the softest tissue in the human body, and they're very susceptible to bacteria and other things when your eyes have been attacked. And lastly, but not least, the pH in the water does not correspond to the eyes. So if you try to do a 50-minute flush with just water, even if it's at the right temperature, we'll talk about that a little later, it's difficult and painful. I guarantee if you ever try to do that, just keep your eyes over water for 15 minutes, keep both eyelids open. It's very hard to do. A
No
lot of people don't
kidding.
realize that.
Yeah, no
Yep.
kidding. Huh. Well, and we talked about temperature, and that's our next question to you. We want to know, we're going to test your knowledge here. What is the acceptable temperature, according to you and according to the standard, when using an eye wash station connected to plumbing? Is it between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius, between 9 and 15, 16 and 38, or 39 and 55? We'll give you a few seconds.
This ought to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised to see what people, if they're going to be on, it's going to be on the ball. I'll give you a few more seconds. Don't be shy. Just click on the answer you think it is.
You need to add Jeopardy music or
Yeah.
something.
Or the wheel of fortune. Is it? No.
No, it's Jeopardy.
It's Jeopardy?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
yeah.
so. It has a little funny little beep beep thing.
It's true. Good. All right. Okay, we have a 50-50.
Ooh.
Well, we have 46% of people think it's between 9 and 15, and 46% think it's between 16 and 38, and we do have 8% who think it's between 39 and 55.
There's no wrong answers. This is more of a, trying to figure out things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and nobody, by the way, nobody clicked on the 2 and 8.
Well,
Between
that's
the 2 and 8.
interesting enough.
Yeah.
We had a few that did that a while ago.
Yeah, and we did not have anybody between the 39 and 55. So
Yeah, interesting.
So the answer is,
Well, the answer is, 46% of you guys are right. Acceptable temperatures are between 16 Celsius and 38 Celsius, but some strongly recommend that this temperature be between 20 and 25 Celsius. And the reasons are obvious. When it gets too cold, the tendency is to shut your eyes. So if you go into emergency eye wash that was too cold, you'd be wanting to shut your eyes the whole time of the eye wash. And if it's too hot, it actually could accelerate the chemical reaction in your eyes and make things worse for you. So, recommending 20 to 25 is very, very important. That's the temperature. The problem with those kind of things, with plumbing stations especially, is that it's very hard to get within that temperature range without adding devices to the plumbed eye wash in the facility. So you need to add, valves and other things that make sure that you reach that temperature. But that's the desired temperature. And there's an acceptable temperature and there's a desired temperature for water to be at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, half of them had the right answer, and the other half were between 9 and 15, which could have been
not far
not
off.
far.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Thanks for playing the game with us, folks. Keep on moving. We're going to talk about the second category.
Yeah, we're going to talk about portable primary emergency eye wash devices. Just as the word indicates, the first word is key, portable. That means they're not connected to plumbed, and therefore they can move around in your facility. A lot of facilities today have their eye wash devices, so to speak, well beyond the 10-second rule that we talked about a while ago. That's the golden rule. So if you're outside of that and you don't want to change all your plumbing in your facility, which is very expensive, you could purchase or use portable primary eye wash devices that can give you that continuous flow for 15 minutes. So there are two styles of these portable primary eye wash devices. One is called a tank style. Basically, it's a unit you mix water and a concentrate or an additive, improving the quality of the rinsing. The units require preventative maintenance every 3, 4, or 6 months, depending on the model you buy. And benefits are portability and easy installation. And in the last several years, you've seen, the cartridge style become very, very popular everywhere. Cartridge style are factory sealed cartridges. There's no mixing or measurements needed. And the benefits are the same as above, except with the additional benefit being that maintenance, little or no maintenance until it's activated. So some of these go for 24 months without doing anything. The problem with the portable eye wash, the tank style, is that they need to be cleaned, they need to be sanitized after every time you've reached the period for maintenance, which is a lot of work and a lot of trouble for most companies.
Interesting. The last but not the least. Oops.
I think you got it. Okay.
I got it. Okay,
all
sorry.
Right, all right. Secondary eye wash devices,
Yes.
usually known as personal use eye wash. So bottled eye wash, sometimes when you go into a facility, you see these around battery charging stations and other areas. And bottled eye wash should not be used for that type of, you saw the applications a while ago. Bottled eye wash gives you less than 15 minutes at the 1.5 liters or 0.4 gallons a minute. So anything that is below the 50-minute threshold with the quantity of liquid that we need does not meet the requirement of the standard for continuous rinsing for 15 minutes. Also, complicating things is we have tank and dish style emergency eye washes that are less than 15 minutes. And again, they're not primary eye wash devices. They're called secondary eye wash devices because, again, they're below the 50-minute threshold that you need. The requirement of the standard says it must be 50 minutes or more as an eye wash device at the quantity of liquids that we're talking about. So 0.4 gallons or 1.5 liters per minute for 15 minutes. So that's the importance of that.
Definitely. Just want to reiterate, sorry guys. If you have questions, by all means, ask at any time. Use the Q&A box. And oh, someone has break the ice.
Oh, broke the ice.
Yeah, broke the ice. Sorry. Someone is asking if I carry 5 bottles, would it means it could be around the 15 minutes or?
So no, the answer to that is no. Again, we're not meeting. It's not a matter of meeting the 15 minutes. It's a matter of the quantity of liquid for 15 minutes. So the importance of things that happen when you have an emergency eye wash event is that you get copious liquid in your eyes for 15 minutes. So a lot of liquid in your eyes for 15 minutes to rinse out thoroughly the liquid that we're talking about, the corrosive liquid that's there in your eyes. So it's very, very important that you don't use bottles for that. And that's why the requirement of the standard. If you're ever at doubt as to if you need 15-minute eye wash stations, always refer to the MSDS sheet. You look at any chemical, they'll generally tell you on an emergency and first aid how much, whether it requires a primary eye wash device or what they call a 15-minute eye wash device.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking the question, Patrick. Appreciate it. We actually got that same question this morning from our French audience. So I guess it's something that people are really wondering if there's like a ratio, and there isn't, right?
Now, portable eye wash, when you'll talk about portable eye wash, secondary eye wash, the particular thing it does is you can rinse your eyes of dust or small particulates that are, or how I would say, a nuisance rather than anything else, right? When you're talking about a corrosive substance, the eye wash bottles could also be used to get to your emergency eye wash station. So if your plan is you're not within 10 seconds, if you can use a bottle to get to that eye wash device, that is a good use. Also get to the ambulance to get to the facility that you need. It's an additional bottle that you can use for, getting you to the right place. So the bottles have its place in the workplace, just not around certain corrosive substances.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now the rinsing solution.
Yeah, we're going to talk about physiology of the rinsing solution. So we talked about, tap water or drinking water that contains risk to eye health, really. When you're already treating the eyes that are during an incident, impurities in the water can cause secondary injuries. Also, the pH of water does not correspond to the eyes, making the 50-minute flush of the eyes a very painful experience for the user. It's a fact that it's very hard to even if the temperature is right, putting water in your eyes for 50 minutes is very, 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 very difficult to do.
Yeah, no kidding.
So if you do the second step of that, if you get a little bit better, when you start using water and a water preservative, preservatives mixed with water do not affect the potential contaminants in the water or alter the pH at all. Preservatives that use the water inhibit levels of bacteria, basically. So the ability of additives to inhibit bacterial population depends on several factors, including the initial bacterial load. In other words, how many bacteria are in the water or how many bacteria are in the eye wash station. The importance of the eye wash station, when you talked about the eye wash station a while ago, it needs to be sanitized and all those things. If you don't do that, you're definitely going to have a bacteria problem in the eye wash station itself. Then if you stepped up to the next solution that would be a bit better than water preservative, you're talking about something called buffered saline solution. Water and buffered saline solution contain a proven preservative that inhibits bacterial growth, combined with physiology balance elements. In other words, we're changing the pH of the water, and we're making it that of the tear of a human eye, which is very easy. It's just the salt that's involved in that. So it helps to reduce the risk of causing further damage to the eye and is more comfortable for the user during an accident or incident that you have to rinse your eyes out for 15 minutes. And then you got the very high end of things we call sterile solution. We talked about those bottles a while ago. When you talk about the 50-minute eye wash stations, you got these sterile solutions now that are available in these cartridge style cartridges only, because it has to be clean room produced. That means they're 100% free of living bacteria and 100% free of living organisms, because again, they're made in a clean room environment. So that's really like the Cadillac of all these eye wash stations. Portable eye wash stations that have cartridges are probably very, very useful and very, very popular now in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely. Different options. But in order to use those, we need training. We need to know how to use it. We need to do the maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. So you talk about training. Workers should be trained on the particularities of any harmful chemicals in your workplace. Again, if you looked at an MSDS sheet and it told you you needed 20 minutes, well, you'd have to find the right eye wash to do 20 minutes for you. So 50-minute eye wash stations would not be enough. But there would be few and far between. But you need to know the particularities of the chemicals in your workplace. Your employees should know what they're dealing with and how to deal with them. So it's not only knowing how to use an emergency eye wash station, it's also to wear chemical gloves and to wear goggles, face shields, whatever you need to protect yourself from that. Safe work techniques and practices also. So you have experienced people there that know how to deal with these chemicals and to avoid the type of accidents we're talking about.
Yeah.
They need to be trained on that. And of course, the exact location of each emergency eye wash station. So they got to be within, we talked about a while ago, 10 seconds. So make sure they know where to go in case an emergency happens. It's very, very important. We recommend the frequency of this training. Well, some best practices suggest that it be for new hires, obviously when you hire somebody, and followed then by an update at least annually. So an annual thing that you should be doing. Other training that you do annually, emergency eye wash should be part of that. Even if it's a 15-minute refresher, that should be done every year, that the workers know where the emergency eye wash is, how to use it, and how to avoid getting in that situation to start with.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to emphasize the fact to know the exact location, because sometimes that could save your eye,
Well,
like just to
especially
know.
think about it. Think about somebody being injured in the eyes. You're not seeing.
No, exactly.
You don't have a guide generally, so you have to know where to go and how to get there and have no obstructions in the way. So
Yeah.
they usually talk about emergency eye wash stations that there, be a path that there, everything around that emergency eye wash station within a certain quantity of feet or meters in metric, that be clear of any obstructions so that person can get to the eye wash station and know how to activate it quickly.
Yep. Very important. And to maintenance is as well very important.
Well, yeah. So maintenance is established according to the type of eye wash device used and the type of rinsing solution being deployed. So we talked a while ago about these connected to plumbing devices, very, very popular, and they're very good, especially if they're within the 10-second rule. But they need to be activated weekly so that you don't have that buildup of contaminants and bacteria and
Yeah.
such. The tank style emergency eye wash requires a mixture of water with a concentrate or an additive. It's preventive maintenance every 3, 4, or 6 months. So you're really talking about a unit that you mix with water that you put up on the wall. And once you've done that, of course, you need 2 people to put up on the wall and take it down from the wall after that time period is done. And then you got to sanitize and sterilize that unit so that it be reused again. That's very, very important. So there's a lot of I'll call it maintenance for the tank style eye wash stations that are quite cumbersome for some companies to deal with. The cartridge style, which has been new in the last 5 or 6 years, is very, very popular. People they're investing, emergency eye wash stations that are portable. We use this cartridge style emergency eye wash. It requires no maintenance for an extended period of time, anywhere between 18 to 24 months, unless of course the device is activated earlier, which is a good and a bad situation. You go through the cartridge, but then again, you would have something that'd be very easy to replace. So very easy on the maintenance.
Good. So you've learned a few things today, and we want to know, according to what you've learned, would you need to change your emergency eye wash equipment? So you have 5 possibilities. Is it A, yes, and you would like to need to help validate your choice? Is it B, that you would like to have your equipment inspected? You would like to try new equipment or have a demonstration, maybe the cartridges, or just to have an audit of maybe what you would be best suited for your work environment. Actually, you may not have an eye wash station, but you would like to have one. Or are you completely satisfied with your equipment? So we'll give you a few seconds to answer, and we'll see the results. Don't be shy. Just pick the one that applies to your reality. Few more seconds. Can't wait to see what where people stand. See the results. All right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so we have at least 25% of the people who would like to see the new equipment or have a demonstration. That's very interesting. Some of you guys would like maybe to help validate your choice. So you maybe what I can understand from what I'm reading is that you may not be completely comfortable with the system you have, or you're not sure if it's the right system for the right application. And some of you are satisfied with your equipment, and that's good. It means you're safe. So thanks for answering that poll question. It's now time for question. Feel free to ask them. You have that Q&A box just on your screen. We have a question here from Catherine. She's asking, do we need to sterilize the tank when we're talking about the maintenance for that particular eyewash device?
Yeah, so tank style eyewash devices, yes, it's part of the standard. All the manufacturers, whether it be Honeywell or somebody else, when we sell these tank style eyewash devices, we usually sell what we call a set of brushes. There's brushes that we sell to use for the eyewash device. You also can get a sanitizing product. You put in the device and then you rinse it out, copiously with water. They have to be sanitized. Every time they come down from the wall to be refilled and changed, they should be sanitized. Now, the homemade part of that is you can use a commercial brush that you could buy somewhere. And, I think there's typically you talk about bleach. There's a quantity of bleach and water that we can recommend to you if you want to do that. But they have to be sanitized, and that is part of the issue of the maintaining those type of eyewash devices. It's a lot of work. So when you put it up, you need two people because it's very heavy. Once you get the water and the mixture in there, it's heavy. It's over 100 pounds typically.
Yep.
So you need two people to put on the wall, and you need two people to bring it down, and then you need a certain amount of time to then sanitize and clean the product, refill it, and then put it back on the wall. Still a very good unit, still very, very useful, but it's just a lot more maintenance than some other products.
So depending on what your facility is equipped with, and
yeah, sure. I mean, I wouldn't shy away if you had already had a lot of tank style eyewash devices. I just make sure that the maintenance schedule is done right, and that you clean these units very thoroughly when they go being put back in use, taken out of use and put back into use. You need to clean them very, very thoroughly. Okay. Thanks for the question, Catherine.
Yeah, we have Ron who's asking. He said, I'm working in a manufacturer and there's lots of dust. Which type of eyewash device would you recommend would be the best?
Well, that's easy. So remember we talked about bottles being very useful, but not for corrosive materials. Dust is perfect. Anything that is a particular item that is more of a nuisance type dust that goes in your eyes can be washed out with water. It can be washed out with emergency eyewash bottles. The bottles will be better than water because, again, you'll have the balanced pH in there and they'll be sterile. So you're really cleaning out your eyes with something very good. There are two types of bottles out there that manufacturers have. There's called a blow-fill-seal bottle. And once you open it, you can't reclose it.
Okay.
And then there's screw-on bottles that exist out there. The problem with the screw-on bottles, of course, is that people fill other things in there, where the blow-fill-seal bottles are purposely made for only one purpose, which is emergency eyewash. Okay. So you know how to recognize them versus other bottles.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering Ron's question. We have Chris here who's asking, if you use a bottle to treat an injured eye, do you transport that person to a further department site or continue with the bottle?
Well, you continue with the bottle as best you can until you get to that 50-minute emergency eye wash. I'm assuming that we're talking about a corrosive accident that happened now. You got acid in your eyes, right? You can use that bottle to get you to the 50-minute eye wash station, but the bottle can't run out. It's only a temporary solution to get you to the right place. Anytime you have corrosive material in your eyes, the standard requires, and it's common sense also, that you get to that 50-minute eye wash device. Whatever that device you've chosen for 15 minutes, you need to get there as soon as possible. So bottles are used, lots of times these secondary devices or bottles, lots of times they're bottles, are used to get to an injured person to the eye wash station, or after the person's done the complete eye wash, which is 50 minutes, to get the person into the ambulance, they have an extra bottle to continue the rinse until they get to the emergency hospital or emergency station they need to get to. So there's a lot of uses for bottles, but they're not used for 50-minute emergency eye wash. And that's important to note. Some people have used bottles thinking that that will do it. The problem with most of the injuries that we see, or not, I shouldn't say most, lots of the injuries that we see are people that didn't do the 50-minute eye wash. So they do it for 3 or 4 minutes and they run out of fluid, or the fluid or the water is too cold, or the water's too hot, it's uncomfortable for them, they stop. And then the chemical builds up in your eyes. It's copious amount of rinsing that is required when you get chemicals in your eyes. You rinse as much as you can for as long as you can to get all the chemicals out of your eyes. Your chemicals are your eyes are your softest part of your body. It's the softest tissue in your body, so they need to be really, really carefully maintained. In that sense of, emergency eye wash like that really can save your eyesight basically.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, thank you. I hope we answered your question, Chris. We all now have a question from Paul. Sorry, can a decontamination shower be used as an eye wash station?
Absolutely. So I didn't talk about emergency state, other than the eye wash right now today, but yes, absolutely. That's part of if you read the standard addresses eye wash devices, not only for the eyes, but for the body as well. So yes, absolutely can. Meeting the same requirements again. You got to get there within 10 seconds for your body or for your eyes.
Yeah.
So the rule stays the same for that. You need to get there as soon as you can, and you need to copiously rinse your eyes and your body of the chemicals that are on you.
Good. Thank you. Don't be shy to ask any other question. We'll see if there's another one coming.
Already pretty good questions so far.
Yeah,
I like it.
very
Good.
interesting. Yeah. Anyhow, there's no other questions for now, but if there is, feel free to email me. I will definitely transfer them to Roger. Or if you ask it before we end this webinar, we'll be gladly answering it. But just so you know, I've mentioned maybe during the presentation, SPI and Honeywell are partners. We can help you, as we just mentioned, we can help you go to your site, see what your equipment is. We can help you choose the right equipment, analyze your situation. We do have experts here with Honeywell, and also we can help you with different other training and expertise that we have that you can see on your screen. So do not hesitate to contact us. Having said that, I want to thank you, Roger, for your great experience that you shared with us today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And just before we leave, if you have joined on our webinars before, you know our surveys are important. Please take a few seconds to answer it. 8 quick question in order for us to measure our performance, to see where we can improve, but also to hear about you and what you would like to hear next time. It'll be really, really helpful. And we hope you are safe, and we will see you in our next webinar in a couple of weeks. Thank you, everybody. Be safe.